Hello, grade 12s. We are busy with chapter 5, general management. So we are going to continue. I think it will probably be into 3 or 4 segments, just so that we really kind of hone in and get all the needed. It's quite a theory-laden one, so you do need to know the theory. It's great that you understand things, but with business studies, your understanding has to come into the example of retail. So if there are steps, you must know the steps. If there are principles, you must know the principles. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing today. So general managers have, what is it called? The different tasks, management tasks. And I always say it's polk, da-da-da-dum, and then you can do jazz hands. So polk, da-da-da, M, all stand for something. But remember, polk, there's 3 C's, 3 D's, and an M. So polk, 3 C's, 3 D's, and an M. So let's get into it. You know from grade 10, you've done polk. Planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. And those are the 4 tasks that you dealt with a lot in your grade 10 year. Let's go through it from a grade 12 point of view, because you kind of know what it's about, but now we've got to just hone in on some steps and things like that. So, planning. You have to be able to plan. As a general manager, one of your skills is to be able to put plans together and communicate those plans to everybody else. So, a project management course is always a good one to go into if you're looking at going into being a manager. Extra information for you, because I found when I did the project management courses, it just helped me to kind of get my thoughts around the task at hand, and then I could actually plot it on a project management spreadsheet, and then you can follow up, because you know your whole life as a general manager with projects is following up on. So let's have a look at the steps. There are 6 planning steps. Now, the first one says, understand the problem, define the problem. So define what you need to do. So a lot of the problem is we need to grow our sales by 5%. So in retail, in Checkers, it would be our bakery section needs to grow because it's really not doing well. And we've got the bakery on site, we've got ovens, we've got ingredients, we've got bakers. Why aren't we growing? So that could possibly be a problem that we're defining. So the first one is understand the problem, define the problem. The information that you need in order to get the answers for this problem. So now what you're going to do is you're going to go to the bakery section. You're going to go speak to the bakery manager. You're going to go and ask them, how are you baking things? What are you doing? When do you bake things? Because you might find that the problem is actually some of the produce is stale because the bakers are doing it the day before and not covering it properly. So you're then kind of getting into more of the information. What ingredients are you using? Because they might be using substandard ingredients. Hence, their products are not of good quality and customers are not buying it. They could also be baking later on in the afternoons and are not too much in a rush, possibly to start baking in the morning, and as people come in, they're hungry, it's a breakfast kind of thing. You can offer breakfast, scone and coffee to entice people through to your bakery. So this is, again, defining the problem. So step 2, gathering all the information. The step 3 is to analyze and consider all the information that you've got. There, you're going to actually start having a look at everything that you've gained from speaking to people, and then starting to say, yes, this is relevant, this is not relevant. The 4th step is to have a plan of action. Now you need to list the tasks that have to happen, and then you're going to have the date that it needs to be completed, and you're going to have who is responsible. So you might say to the procurement manager, I need a list of all the ingredients and the suppliers that you are buying from, and I need it by this date, and then under responsibility, his or her name. Okay, so that's getting a plan of action together. You'd use a Gantt chart for that. Remember that in grade 11 for project management. So you have what is the task, who's responsible, the date to start the task, the date it must end, so how many days are you giving them to do that, and then you plot it onto a project management program. So that's the fourth step, is plan of action. The fifth step, as I've always said to you with steps, the last two is implement and evaluate, always. If you've forgotten all the other steps, you just write number 5 and number 6, implement and evaluate, discuss that, and you'll get the marks. So now you implement the plan of action. Now you implement that we're going to be putting a coffee station in the bakery section, and you've already justified the cost and things like that, and you're then going to go into your sixth step where you evaluate. Did we achieve the sales? Did we define the problem correctly? Have we been successful? And a lot of the times, companies leave it at that and move on to the next project. But it is so important to evaluate and to find out what were our key findings of this project. Because sometimes, so you have to actually have it written down somewhere where you close off the project to say, you have the final project meeting with your project team, you have a lunch, or you have, I don't know, you bring some cake in to celebrate, and there you evaluate, guys, what did we do really well? And what did we do that we need a little bit of an improvement? What needs improvements in our project that we covered now? So I've put together here, I've put together a little acronym so you can understand the steps. You know me in acronyms? So I've said UDA is, so UDA is understand, is info, A is analyze. So UDA is a, and then I've said she's a pie, P-I-E. So UDA is a pie. P stands for plan of action, I implement and evaluate. And that's why I've got a little pumpkin pie there, because UDA is a pie. Okay, so just to help you understand the steps of planning. Planning, your manager has to ensure that they know what the aims are, and they've got to bring their staff to those aims and ensure that everybody is on board with the goals of the company or the goals of that project. Plans must be flexible. You must be able to change. They're not cast in stone, and I had to learn that from a young age when I was a brand manager, because it was very difficult. You know, once I set a plan, it was very difficult for me to move from the plan, but this is the plan. And a lot of the times you have to change because things change. Look at 2020, look at 2021. You know, with COVID, things change. We've got to adapt and roll with the plan. Okay, now we're going to go into the principles of planning. So the principles of planning in your textbook, you're going to see it's on page 71. All managers need to be in a position to develop and implement planning. That's what I've said to you. So a principle of planning is your GM must be able to plan, to develop it and implement. Plans are always aimed at the future. There must be clear communication, because you can have the best plan in the land, but if you have not communicated effectively, you have not got buy-in from your employees, it's not going to work. Keep it simple, KISS. Keep it simple. What we used to say, keep it stupid simple, but I think that they said keep it straight and simple. Keep it straight and simple. So it doesn't need fancy words. It just needs to be plain English, and everyone needs to know what they need to do. And planning is a crucial step within your organization. If you don't plan enough, you are going to be left behind, and you're not going to have a competitive advantage. So a lot of the times you'll do your planning near the end of the financial year so that you know what you're going to be doing for the next year, because when that next year hits, you hit the ground running. You know how it is. Great 12's been, isn't it? So exactly that. Have a plan. Okay. How does planning work? Well, top management does all the strategic planning. Remember, we spoke about strategy, so they come up with the big ideas. Middle management is all the tactical plans. So top management will tell them, this is our strategy. We are going to be launching a coffee station in our bakeries in Checkers. Boom. Middle management now has to take that strategy, take that plan, and start making it tactical. Start involving lots of departments. Start bringing people together. Start seeing how are we going to do it from a logistics, from an equipment, etc. Lower management is your operational team, and they will actually be the ones that are doing the plans. They are the ones that are actually they're activating everything. Okay, remember it's in that triangle. We'll do a triangle. Okay. The next step, grade 12, under your heading Organising. It is a management task to arrange activities, to take all the factors of production into account. How much money do we have? Do we have the equipment? Where are we going to do this? Who are the people? So even if we think of our project plan, we'll be putting a coffee station in Checkers Bakery, you need to have a look at all those factors of production. Now you've got to start organizing, and you've got to start saying to people, okay, you've got to do this, what you've got to do. I've got to get costs. We've got to ensure that we've got a return on investment. How are we going to do it? When are we going to do it? By what time? So organizing everybody and everything. The manager also needs to show that tasks are very interdependent of one another across all the functions. So your production team and they're the production team. Sorry, my dogs are barking. They are the production team. So they need to be involved to say, can we do it? Can we still bake and coffee? Are we going to have someone else? Your procurement guys are going to have to buy the coffee. They're going to have to go and source coffee. They're going to have to go buy machines. Your HR is going to have to maybe employ more people, and there's going to have to be training. So you need to understand coffee, because, I mean, you're not going to do it half battered. It's going to be a barista, and he's going to explain all this amazing coffee. So do you see all the tasks are interdependent? Marketing has to get the communication out to people to say, listen, we at Checkers now have a coffee station next to our bakery coming for breakfast. So it's all this interdependency with all our functions and our tasks, and everyone has to be talking to one another. Remember, with organization, you're also going to be talking about your organogram. Organization is all about who reports to who so that the tasks can be done. So in every organization, they will have an organogram. Look at your school. So you've got your principal, you've got your management, then you've got your grade controllers, and then you've got your teachers. The same in Checkers. You're going to have, let's look at a store. You're going to have your manager, your assistant managers, the manager of the bakery, butcher, manager of the floor, possibly, and then underneath you're going to have cashiers, because everyone has to report to one another. So you've got two types of organogram or structure. You've got a line structure, which is where you know exactly who is going to be reporting to who, and you know what needs to be done. And then you've got a functional structure. That is where you could be reporting to lots of people. So it's great because you get exposure to a lot of departments and a lot of people, but it's not great in the sense that it can cause confusion. Because who do you report to then? Okay, that's organization. Leading. Yay, we've kind of covered a little bit of leading in the last video. So leading is all about ensuring that you give guidance, that you give support to your employees. So we're doing this coffee station. People are going to feel so overwhelmed. You're going to pull people in and say, how are things going? Can I assist you? Can I help you? You're not going to do the work, but you're going to help them to say, have you thought of this? What about doing? You're also going to look at the balance between risk-orientated and people-orientated. So you're looking at the business and the people. Is a good leader, hey? You're not always, can't just be for the people, all the people, because you still have to run a business. So, you know, you have to ensure that the work gets done. And then you have your different management styles. Do you remember them? Democratic, laissez-faire, transactional, transformational, and situational. What does a good leader do? So these are all, what I've got on the slide you must know, guys, please. So a good leader helps all the employees to understand the goals. They wait and get inputs. So I'm not just saying you're doing a coffee, boom. You're going to say, what do you think? What are your ideas? Where do you think it should be? I mean, these guys work in the bakery section. You haven't worked there. So listen to the people. You must offer respect. You must recognize good work. And you recognize people. Thank you so much. I appreciate this. And you keep talking to them. Communication. And a good leader also explains change. Bakery staff that have been there for years. Now, all of a sudden, now they've got to learn how to do coffee. It can be extremely overwhelming. So take them through the process. Explain to them why. Explain to them the goals. Take the time and say, this is what's going to then happen. And we're then going to grow and we're going to be amazing. And move them with you. Be that transformational leader. So we've done polk. Now so that's our first C. We're now going to do our next two C's. Do you see the three D's and the M? Pulp, da-da-da-dum. Okay. Coordination is your next management task. You need to be able to have cooperation between the different departments, but you are the facilitator for that. So like our coffee idea, you need to get the different departments talking to one another. So as the manager, you have the authority. You're going to call a meeting, your project meeting, and you're going to have the various departments in and the various people that are going to be affected by this change. And you're then going to ensure that there's cooperation. What do you think? How do you think? Oh, you're the expert in this. How do you feel? And you're going to make people feel good about themselves because you have to bring them on in this change. Communication is key with coordination. Man, you could have the best project plan. It can all be on paper. And you think that's your communication. Do not pass begin, do not collect 200 Rand. Because communication, you actually have to have communication. You actually have to have people in a meeting talking to one another, not behind a laptop. And you're going to be working on synergies. Remember synergies? It says 1 + 1 = 3. So having different people will give you more, not just a 1 + 1 = 2. You're going to have more coming from coordination, coming from people being together. Communication. What is communication? It's the transfer of ideas. You see, it links in coordination. So you need coordination with everybody in order to have successful communication. Your channels of communication need to be clearly defined. So, for example, if your cashier is disgruntled, they're not going to go to head office, to the head of Checkers, and speak to the CEO of Checkers head office. No, do not do that. Your channels of communication, you're going to go to your supervisor and you're going to say, I am not very comfortable because of COVID. I don't feel I'm being protected. I need more protection. And if your supervisor there can't solve the problem, they can then either go to HR or their manager, and you've got channels. Like in school, you've got channels. So it's the communication to kind of go with those channels, but to keep those channels of communication open all the time. As a manager, you need to have a bit of an open door policy. If you have a problem, come talk to me. I've worked for managers before where I felt you can't even disagree with them because it would be a career limiting move. And that's not a good manager. That's not a good leader. You have to be able to just and say, but, so those channels of communication must be open. Communication will improve performance. The biggest dilemma in any business is communication. It is, it really, really is. And it will improve performance if you are very good at communication as a manager. As a manager, you need to delegate. That means you need to be able to have your tasks, your workload, and trust people and delegate your duties. Because remember, at the end of the day, you will be responsible for that work. The CEO is not going to call in your manager underneath you or your employees underneath you. You are accountable and responsible for that work. So you have in your employees, but you also have to let go a little bit and let people be. So you reduce the workload by giving people different duties. You also assign authority to them. Let them make decisions and let them be accountable to you. Because then once you grow people, you allow people to be more, they will be more. Decision making. Make sure that when you are making a decision, you gather all the relevant facts. You're then going to understand the feasibility of these facts and the viability, which is the money part. So feasible, is it feasible for us to do? Can we do it? Is it reasonable? Is it something that can be implemented? And the viability is all about the return on investment. You're going to understand the costs thereof. And will we make money? And then you're going to make a decision, an informed decision. Okay. The next D is discipline. Now, discipline in a business is to improve future behavior. As a manager, you don't just fire people. It's not allowed. In South Africa, you're not allowed to fire someone. So as a manager for discipline, you're going to be counseling someone and you're going to be coaching them to try and help them to get to where they need to get to. There's a lot of processes that you need to do before you can actually start the disciplinary process. Or we don't say fire, we say dismiss, where you can dismiss someone. So there are disciplinary measures that you're going to be looking at in your labor section. You're going to be giving warnings to people that are not worthy, but you're certainly going to try and get them to work. It's very difficult. Ask any teacher. Okay, so you're going to really try and give them as much as you possibly can. Eventually, you have to say, I can't anymore. But as long as you've coached, you've counseled, you can then start giving warnings, and you can then start going into the disciplinary process. Motivation, we've just gone through the motivation. Managers can motivate, monetary, remember, with your bonuses and with tips, or non-monetary with your job enlargements. Let's just go there. Job enrichment, empowerment and advancement, flexible hours, recognition of good work, being appreciated, and wellness programs. So, grade 12s, those are your management tasks. Make sure you know them. That's why I'm doing this in sections. So you should have heading, planning, get your textbook next to you. Make sure that you've got the steps, the principles. Oh, you know what I've just realized? We didn't do control. I beg your pardon. Let's go back. I got so involved in the leading. Let's get back into Polk. Sorry, just put it under there. You would have had it under the first C, and that is control. Now, control is once you've done all the planning and the organizing and leading and you're getting this project all together, you need to ensure that you are there along the way, ensuring that the process is happening and that people are doing what they need to do. So a control step 1 is to set standards. This is what I expect from you. And normally you would do that in your performance objectives. But you would set the standards, even for the project, what I expect from you. You're then going to measure the actual performance that's happened. And step 3 is if there's any deviations, people they've gone off the path, you're going to correct it and bring them back so they can understand the goals that they need to do. And that is control. That is evaluating people, making sure that you are there all along, because that's your job. You're a manager. You have to, you would even call project meetings. You will call people into your office and say, right, where are we with the coffee project? You said you were going to be doing this by this date as per the project plan. Has it been done? No? Okay. Why? Tell me why. Let me understand why. What has happened that you couldn't fulfill what you needed to do on this project? And then you get into a discussion and negotiate, and then you start getting them back on the path. Please, guys, you must understand, this is one of our key measures this year. This is what we're going to be measured on for bonuses. If we don't get this right, we're not going to have a bonus. Do you understand? This is the goal, and people will then get back on board. Okay, grade 12s, Polk,